going to start our drawing for if the dinosaurs came back. And for this drawing, we are going to be using basic shapes. Now, friends, I think it's smart to practice some shapes first, because if I tell you just start drawing rectangles and you're not great at drawing rectangles, you might get frustrated. What I want you to do is remember that you can turn your paper. I think it's easier to make a straight line up and down. So I turn my paper when I am making things like rectangles. That is a rectangle. This is not. That's not a rectangle. Rectangles have straight sides. Rectangles don't overlap on the edges. There's a big difference. Not a rectangle. My lines are curved. So you will notice these two I drew very fast, while this one I am going slow. Now I'm not looking for perfect. My lines are not perfectly straight. That's not what I'm going for. But I'm going for some slow and careful shapes and not just crazy, fast, not really shapes. Other shapes we might be using today, maybe a semicircle, which is a half of a circle. We might want some triangles. This is all just practice right now. I encourage you to practice along with me. We will probably be making some rectangles that are this direction, horizontal or sideways. Maybe a square. What's the difference? Well, a square is all four sides are the same. And you can see that angled way up, but it's still, whoa, that one's not very straight. Still looks like a square. There we go, that's a little better. All four sides the same. So practice those a little bit. Even practice circles. I know circles are the easiest shape, but when you make a circle and don't close it, or when you make a circle that's all wanky and fast, it doesn't really look like a circle. So this is really a time for you to practice a few of your shapes. All right, our practicing is done. We used some time to do that, and now we are going to make a city. Now the cover of the book is similar to what our project is going to be today. So we are going to make a cityscape. I am not going to use a pencil today. What? That never happens. Rarely happens. Instead, I am going to use a black marker. Friends, I almost never tell you just to draw in marker because of mistakes. So we're going to have to go very slow and very careful. If you notice the cover of the book, and I don't have the book here with me, but if you look back on the video that we shared, you can see the cover of the book has just black and white backgrounds with colored dinosaurs, and that's what we're going to do. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to turn my paper the tall way and make a ground. This is going to be like my city street. And I'm going slow and careful all the way down. Remember I said that I think it's easier to make a line up and down? That's why I turned my paper. But that is my city street. Oh, I'm going to make a sidewalk too. Usually in a city there's a sidewalk right by the street, right? So I'm going to make my sidewalk too. Right next to it, another pretty straight line. Now, if you don't have a black marker, I would recommend a black colored pencil. If you don't have a black colored pencil, use your regular pencil, but just push kind of hard. I'm going to make these kind of diagonal lines because that's how we make it look like it's a sidewalk. It's got those lines in it. But my lines are not straight up and down. They're diagonal across. Then it looks like it's really a sidewalk. Now we're ready for buildings. Friends, we want buildings that show variety. Variety means difference. We don't want all our buildings to be exactly the same. So I'm going to make some buildings that are very, very tall. And I'm going to make some buildings that are shorter and wider. And maybe I will make a building that has a top that's kind of different. I've seen a building like this before that has a big tower on the top. There's one in Chicago that has 2 towers on the top. But these are all buildings. And I'm going to put this one kind of behind that one. Notice, just using rectangles. And I'm really starting to get a city built here. And I'm going to the edge. Now I have buildings all the way across my page. But I'm missing an important part of our buildings. I need doors and windows. Because buildings aren't just made of white, flat edges. My doors can be double doors. They can be single doors. They could have a semicircle above them. There can be 2 different doors. This one's got a bunch of doors because it's a wide building. And lots of people work there. So it needs some doors. This one, the doors kind of go off the page. It's a very tall door. And I think this one's going to have a semicircle too. And this one just has doors on them too. Now it looks like people can go in my buildings. I'm going to give you a minute to work on your buildings and your doors, and then we'll do windows. All right, windows, boys and girls. We need lots of windows because on skyscrapers, there's many, many, many floors and they all have windows. Again, small rectangles and squares. So I'm going to draw them separately. I am not going to just make lines. I am going to make rectangles and squares. And I'm going to keep making them on every building. And yes, it's going to take some time. And yes, mine are not lined up perfect. Well, that's because I'm drawing it freehand. That's one of the reasons we're using markers, because I'm not worried about perfection. Okay? What I do not want to see, I don't want to see just lines crossing each other. I want to see shapes. Now, I'm going to speed this up and draw all my windows. Wow, that was a lot of work. But I like how it's looking. Now, a couple things that I would like you to notice about mine. I added some triangles at the top. I added a curve on top of my windows here, some triangles on top of my doors. And if you want to put doorknobs on there, you can. They can be any kind of doors that you want them to be. So I tried to make mine look different. I didn't make them all look the same. That is variety. Some of my windows go vertical up and down. Some of my windows go across or horizontal. Some of them end, Two more there, I think. Some of them end right at the door, some of them end a little bit above the doors. But you definitely get the idea of a city, and that's your goal. Make yours as interesting as you can. Please don't rush through this, friends. Good artists take their time, and that's what I would like you to do. When you are done with this, put it in your art folder, and we will finish it next week.